If you enjoyed the channel and our video content and would like to support us, you can do this in a couple of ways. You can sign up to our Patreon site, which is a monthly subscription to one of our 4 tiers, each giving you something different from early access interviews up to exclusive unseen footage. There's also the option of a one-off donation via PayPal, which allows you the option to donate an amount of your choice. Both options really help to keep this channel going and to continue putting out regular content for you good folk. So please take a look at aircrewinterview.tv/donate, and I thank you in advance. Thank you and enjoy.
Yeah, Gonky, did you ever fly against the MiG-29s?
Yeah, I did fly against the MiG-29. They were kind of, I mean, they don't fly it anymore. So I kind of caught the MiG-29 at the tail end of the RMAF's use of it. And my big takeaway with MiG-29, so I actually did some mixed employment with them to where we were kind of like on the same side of an air-to-air engagement and BVR, I'm talking.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in the Navy, the air-to-air doctrine in the U.S. is basically give the aircrew as much information, pertinent information, and then let them decide, right?
Right.
So the Soviet Union kind of doctrine, the Russian doctrine is we're going to tell you where to go and who to shoot, right? You're just a pawn.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was in the States flying, how just, for lack of a better word, just how anal the Top Gun guys were about comm discipline and like not using trucker comm. You know, words mean things, like being very precise with communication. So one of my first experiences with MiG-29 is I'm doing this mixed thing, and I'm leading it in a Hornet. And as soon as I say fights on, the controller just starts talking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's, single 1-1 target, single 1-2, a turn cold, turn hot. And I'm like, what is going on? I mean, like, we all died, it's like, it was, and it's so funny. Like, coming home from that flight, I was like, okay, this is what they were talking about. Like, as far as the different doctrines, like I just got to experience it. And I'm like, man, I'm so glad, I was trained the Western style, because all the talking that was going on, because you're constantly listening for your call sign. What do I do? And you're trying to build a picture in your head of what's going on. And it was very, in my opinion, maybe because I'm Western trained, but it was very SA degrading. But that's how the MiG-29s kind of operated BVR, air to air. So I could see, I was like, man, we definitely have a big advantage in that regard. And I did numerous air to air hops. A lot of times as 1v1, because they were trying to get some training done, just like we were. I'd take a new student up. And it wasn't uncommon for us to be able to stern convert them, meaning that we were able to, break their radar lock and have an unobserved entry and just basically drive around the back and end up, a mile behind them. And that's not a dig on having experienced, kind of the control that he was getting in his aircraft. It's not a dig on the MiG-29. Like I said, it was a little bit older, so their IRST system that they had wasn't as good as it used to be. Like, the ranges weren't what they used to be, and I know they were struggling with parts of the radar limitations like that as well. So BVR, the Hornet definitely had a major advantage over the Malaysian MiG-29. In BFM, I only got to BFM the MiG-29, I think twice, maybe 3 times, but it was always from one of those BVR engagements. So I never got to go out and just set up in a beam set and fight. And I think a lot of that's because the Hornet base was all the way on the west side of the country, Penang, and the MiG-29 base was all the way on the east side. Both jets are a little bit fuel limited, especially the MiG-29. And I think just logistically, us flying all the way across the country to meet one another to fight, we might get one engagement, because the BVR stuff, a lot of times that's all we did was like one engagement, maybe two, then the MiG's out of gas. And then, we're, I forget, I don't know, several hundred miles from home. It's like, we got to go too. But the engagements that I did have were, I was, turning with the MiG, and I have one that I put on YouTube, made a video out of it. The MiG-29 is definitely a G machine. It reminds me a lot of the F-16. You don't take in the Hornet, and a lot of times, actually every time that I went over there to fight MiG-29s, I always had two bags. So we were at a disadvantage because we needed the extra gas. But man, right away, I mean, you hit, a lot of times, so we would, stern convert them, and then I would let them do a wide turn, and then they would come back at us, and we would have a merge. And a lot of times the merges were wider just from the geometry, but just for my own eyeball cal, the first time I took a MiG-29, I just turned across his tail blower in the Hornet, and I just held my numbers for the best rate numbers, and I looked out above the canopy, and I mean, very quickly he was outrating me, which was eye-opening, because in the States we would try to simulate the MiG-29, but it's hard to simulate because you're using like airplanes, and guys would try to use, okay, if you're the MiG-29, you can use burner. If you're the Hornet, you can use mill, but it still wasn't the same. So yeah, my first time seeing the MiG fight in the visual arena, I was really impressed with its G ability. You don't want to be in a G fight with a MiG-29. So, what I would do all the time is I would basically cut across the circle, and I would force a one circle fight on them, which is where the Hornet is better, and that's where I would usually get them. But yeah, the MiG-29, I have a lot of respect for that airplane. We did a big exercise while I was there called, was it Cope Tufan, where the Air Force came out. They brought the Raptor, so we had the Raptor, the Eagle, the MiG-29, Sukhoi. It's crazy. It was like a fighter pilot's dream. Was it? No, they held it right there in Penang.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Cope Tufan. But when everybody first got there, as you can imagine, it's the unrestricted takeoff, right? Because everyone wants to show off. And I'd stand out there and watch them all. And the MiG-29 and the Raptor had the best, but the MiG-29 was pretty good. So it's got a lot of thrust. If you try to play, thrust to weight, the MiG's better. So you can't play that game. You gotta stick to what the Hornet's strong at, and you'll do fine.